Now, live with Greg Olsen, Director of the New York State Office for the Aging.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Greg Olsen, and I'm the Director of the New York State Office for Aging. This is a really important program that we're having today. This is the last day of November, which is November is National Family Caregiver Month. And before I introduce my special guests and partners, I want to start by asking a couple questions of those of you that are listening or will be listening in the future. Are you everyone's emergency contact when something happens within your family? Can you leave home without worrying? Are you the person that is the go-to when a family member needs help? Do you do any of these types of tasks for somebody else, like providing transportation, providing hands-on care, maybe help with bathing, dressing, paying bills, shopping assistance, meal preparation? If you're any of those things, even snow shoveling and lawn care, you're what we call a caregiver. And we have about 4.1 million caregivers in the state of New York at any one time that are providing a value to their friends and families that's worth $39 billion a year. We used to think that caregivers, family, friends, and neighbors that are providing some uncompensated care to somebody else were a wraparound to the formal system. That is wrong. It's exactly the opposite. The formal system is a wraparound to what friends and families have been doing for hundreds and hundreds of years. And that's really important. So figuring out ways to support the roles that family, friends, and neighbors play is a priority of the New York State Office for the Aging. So as I mentioned, November is Family Caregiver Month. And today I'm really pleased to have my friends and partners, Leda Rosenthal, who's the Director of Growth, and Nastran Anderson, the Chief Revenue Officer for Trualta. And we'll talk a little bit about what Trualta is, because I'm not sure that the name actually says the amazing platform that this team at Trualta has provided, not only in partnership with us to any caregiver across New York State, but really how important the issue is. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And it's really ripe, given that we've just come off Thanksgiving. We're going to be gathering more for the holidays, and there's really some opportunities here for all of us. This web-based resource provides training and support to help families build skills and manage care at home for loved ones. And this is really people of any age, not just older adults. Best yet, it's available free of charge to any caregiver. So any of those 4.1 million individuals that are providing some level of uncompensated care to somebody else. Today, you're going to learn more about the portal, including how to create a free account, some of the features that are available, and ways it can empower you in your role in providing care for a loved one. And I encourage everybody after this to share it with your networks, your friends, families, through social media, etc. Because as we just know, First Lady Rosalind Carter just died, and she has devoted her life to exactly the topic that we're talking about today. Before we get started with some of the Q&A with my friends here, we wanted to play a quick video. If you're enrolled in the Medicare Savings Program, we've done a lot of work in trying to educate people on the Medicare Savings Program, which can provide literally $7,000 extra into your Social Security checks every single year. But what you may not know is if you're eligible, because the eligibility has been increased for singles and individuals, but also that you need to recertify. And many of you may be getting letters in the mail from the Department of Social Services, from your health plans, et cetera, to recertify. Don't miss this opportunity to do that, or you will see a reduction in your Social Security checks, and that's not okay. So take a look.
Hi, my name is Heather Ledick with New York State Office for the Aging Health Insurance Information, Counseling, and Assistance Program. The Medicare Savings Program is a program designed to save Medicare beneficiaries up to $7,000 annually. For those of you currently receiving the benefit, don't forget you may need to renew. Notices can come from your local Department of Social Services, your Medicare Advantage health plan, or New York State of Health. Don't miss out. Return your renewal form today. You wouldn't want to lose out on this important benefit that helps save you money. If you have any questions in regards to the renewal or the Medicare Savings Program, you can reach out to HICAP at 1-800-701-0501. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Heather. Okay, so Leda and Astrid, welcome aboard. This is going to be a great conversation. I'm going to start with the obvious. What is Trualta? Tell us about it.
Yeah, Leda, go ahead.
Yeah, happy to jump in there. So Trualta at its core is a caregiver engagement platform. So what that means is we are providing support directly to the family caregiver through the web-based portal, whether that's by way of skills training, so educational content that goes across complex conditions like Greg shared. So it can be caring for a child with intellectual developmental disabilities. It can be helping to lift or toilet or bathe a loved one, or it can be condition specific to Alzheimer's, dementia, diabetes, heart health. So all those different types of caregivers who come in many different shapes and sizes have different challenges. There's something for each and every one of them from a training standpoint. And then recently, we've also launched support groups so caregivers can connect with each other. We have a virtual chat room as well. So often caregivers kind of come for the learning, but ultimately they end up staying for the community. So it really is a holistic engagement platform, and then tons of great local New York State resources as well.
Yeah, and I think that some of the things you mentioned are key, right? Here's what we know. We know that about 55% of people that are providing uncompensated care don't consider themselves caregivers. They consider themselves sons and daughters and spouses and aunts and uncles and grandparents and grandkids. And that's what we're really trying to get at. And I love the additional features that you're providing with the support groups, because people think that, you know, this journey is one that they're doing alone, when in fact, again, over 4 million people in New York State are one of these individuals that are providing care to somebody else. One of the things you guys often talk about is a better day for caregivers. How do you see that? How do you define that?
Yeah. So thanks, Greg. You're absolutely right. It's what we're really focused on for caregivers is, what does a better day mean? Like, not every day is going to be a good day. There's going to be really challenging times, and as you already pointed out, it's a very isolating role, and people don't necessarily think of themselves as a caregiver. So what we want to accomplish and what we want to provide for those caregivers is, what could be a better day? If today wasn't a great day, but it could be a better day than it was yesterday, and that we are really laser focused as Trualta on how we provide more of these. So it could be, maybe it's just an easier interaction for the person that you care for. So if it could be very challenging to do that. Or if you don't feel like you understand what to do next or how to go through the task list of all of the things that you need to accomplish as a caregiver, a better day could be feeling more in control of those caregiving tasks. It could be your own self-care, your own wellness, and really thinking about, hey, here's how I'm going to care for myself. This has been a better day because there are things that I've focused on today to make sure that my day's been a little bit better. It could be, maybe just a better conversation or a more pleasant experience with your care recipient. And I think what we're trying to think about in our philosophy is just looking for those silver linings in caregiving and thinking about, hey, what's the good that can come out of this? Where can I really have knowing that this comfort, that knowing that I'm doing the best that I can. And so those are the things that we're thinking about that all add up to a better day.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think when we talk about this population, some people are able to manage with some supports or manage on their own with a group that they have. And there's a lot of benefits that people get from caring for somebody else. But I think the key is that things can change. Somebody could be thrust into this immediately with a stroke or a broken hip, for example, or it could take a lot of time as somebody's needs change or they develop dementia and are on that journey. And it's really trying to, educate those individuals, as you were talking about, with the variety of things that you offer on how to feel and gain that support, but also do their jobs better. So what are some of the topics that the platform covers. Now, we've been in a partnership with you guys now for well over a year. It's been absolutely fantastic. But what could a caregiver, might search for, and what would they find?
It's a really good question. And first, let me start by saying New York caregivers have found over 50,000 useful skills on the platform, and they've really engaged heavily. So some of the things that they're spending time with, it's broken down by specific conditions. So let's say it's Alzheimer's or dementia, and those topics are agitation, anxiety, wandering. So many different skills that go into providing the best care for a loved one in that situation. Then there's condition agnostic content as well. So something like a UTI, something like toileting, bathing, lifting, managing your own burnout or well being. And it's really easy to navigate. So, very often we find that caregivers don't know what skill they need to learn, but they know what challenge they're having. So, they can even just type in a keyword into the search bar, and then it's going to come up and offer that helpful piece of content because while there's so much great information on the platform, you don't always know what exactly you need. So, we curate in a way that makes it really easy to navigate and discover.
And I think that's absolutely key, because you're absolutely right. You might feel like you need some assistance, you want to check it out, but don't even know where to go. And I know we're going to be seeing a little bit of a deeper dive on how you actually access the platform later. But the ability to really generate and create specifics based on your own journey. Now, both of you said something that is critically important, and that's that the needs of the caregiver often go overlooked. Meaning you can't care for somebody else if you're not caring for yourself. So can you talk a little bit more about that part?
Yeah, absolutely, Greg. I think that thinking through, if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not equipped to care for someone else. So I think that's something just in general as humans, especially when we're caring for someone else, we're really focused on that other person, but you cannot pour from an empty cup. And so making sure that you are thinking through, what are the modules. There's different things on here from a Trualta standpoint of how to deal with that stress, how to deal with that overwhelming sense of here's the tasks and things that are piling up. And even just to know, kind of back to that isolation thing, that someone else knows exactly what you're experiencing, that they are feeling the same things that you are, that they're faced with the same challenges that you are, because it might feel like you're the only one who's doing this, and you're the only one who's caring for someone in this way, or that it's really taking over some different parts or aspects of your life. But that's where we offer these support groups and these connections to other caregivers. And sometimes even just reading someone else's story or hearing someone else's story helps you realize that, oh, there is someone else experiencing what I am. There is another person who understands exactly what I'm going through. So it could be as simple as reading it or listening to someone's story, but even connecting in and joining a support group, even anonymously, where you can join in and chat with other caregivers. And maybe they'll say, hey, this particular video was very helpful for me. This particular article was something that I applied in this way, and it made my day-to-day a lot easier. So that focusing on how you're connecting with other caregivers really brings back to that wellness aspect for the caregiver themselves.
Yeah, let's dive into that a little bit deeper, because, whether you are younger, we know that a lot of people are working in caregiving and they're younger as well. We know we have 350,000 grandparents in New York that are the primary caregivers of their grandkids. It can be very isolating. And as you had mentioned, people don't self-identify. They think that they're the only ones. Having the expansion of the community supports that you're talking about, like the support groups, so that people can really say, yeah, I am not the only one. And we've known forever, which is why it's so important now, how critical peer support is, that I can open up. Yes, I'm not alone. So talk a little bit more about, that new feature that you guys have added to this incredible platform.
So with the new feature, it's really about motivation and reducing isolation. So we're also finding that when caregivers engage with each other, they are more motivated to then learn more and spend more time on our platform. So they're 2.5 times more likely to actually engage with a skill once they go through that social. So it really all compounds on itself for deepening caregiver engagement and just kind of resonating with that identity and whatever that identity means to a caregiver at a given time. Because, like you said, Greg, journeys can be really long and your needs are going to be changing all of the time. So having that space where you can connect with someone for whatever you need at that moment is really powerful. And we're seeing a lot of fascinating insights too when it comes to how do we get someone to open up and feel comfortable in such a short period. And we've even tested turning off camera, and then caregivers are 3 times more likely.
I think we lost Leda. Do you want to finish her thought, Nastran?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, she hopefully is able to join back into the cast here. But they're 3 times more likely to engage in the platform, actually. So we've learned, and I think that's where she was going with this, is that some people might not need a particular module at the time, or they don't realize, but as soon as they hear a topic or they say, oh, that's a webinar, that's a support group, that's exactly the same kind of thing that I'm experiencing at home. But on what's interesting about the anonymous one, what we had with these anonymous support groups, cameras off, only our Trualta moderator is on that, and people who are participating in are just chatting. And the demographics, it's really interesting because you see a lot of female caregivers, whether that's a daughter or a spouse, someone in their life that is a woman. But the male caregivers are the ones who are really engaging in those anonymous support groups and that are joining in the chat features because they don't necessarily want to share as openly. But when they are able to connect via that chat, they are realizing the benefit of engaging with other caregivers.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you raised that, because I think through our partnership with you guys and the Caregiver Intensity Index at Archangels, and Alex, if you could pull up that QR code, we're seeing a lot more men. We're seeing a lot more younger people. What we used to think is that the average caregiver is a 63-year-old female taking care of one of their parents. And that's because we're an aging. So that's, of course, who it would be for us, but that is not who the lay of the land is. And there are some differences in not only the generations, but how you reach people who are, male versus female, and what the reaction is going to be. A couple of things that we learned over the pandemic. You talked about isolation. We all know the huge impact on mental health, physical health, literally mortality from being isolated. And, for older adults and spouses that are taking care of others, that can be devastating in and of itself. But we learned through the pandemic with some of the CDC reports that came out, a huge increase in anxiety and depression and alcohol and substance abuse, child abuse, domestic violence, etc. So talk a little bit about how Trualta can help support the mental health and overall well-being of the caregiver. Because again, we go back to, you can't care for somebody else if you're not caring for yourself. But particularly those that are really stressed out and are isolating themselves due to the work that they're providing to somebody else.
Yeah, I would say a couple of areas here. One is that there is specific content on the portal on that caregiver self-care that we talked about, making sure that there are specific, like if caregiver burnout is something that we receive a lot of search requests for on the platform. We also host webinars. So in addition to the support groups, there's actually specific webinars covering topics related to isolation and self-care. We had one that was actually one of our most engaging and most popular ones, was on just doing some simple exercises that you could do within your home that that just from a chair or just, standing in place. It doesn't require any special equipment. It didn't require, any special training. But we had a moderator who would guide you through some different exercises just to get up and moving, because if you're more active yourself, so that's, one of the webinar topics that we offered. And then one thing that I don't think Leda and I have mentioned yet is the chat room. So in addition to the support groups as well, we have a chat room. And in that caregiver chat room, and you can see there on the screen is an example of that, but it's a forum. And so caregivers can actually post in there. Imagine it's just like different topics that would be on there, and you can contribute to a particular topic. You can post a question and other caregivers can respond in there. And then also our care coach can go in and respond to a question that you might have and even direct you to a particular piece of content on the portal that might be helpful.
That's great. That's absolutely great. So one of the priorities of ours as an agency, certainly Governor Hochul and the federal government, everybody is talking about, and rightly so, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Talk a little bit about Trualta's efforts to be inclusive through this platform.
So overall, as a platform, inclusivity is at the core of what we do, because caregivers have so many different identities and need to approach things in different ways. So a couple of specific ways that we tackle that is, first and foremost, English and Spanish. So making sure that the platform is accessible and not just translated, but also multicultural and culturally competent. We've also got LGBTQ plus content that is geared towards a lot of those different conversations that you have from a financial standpoint. There's content, and just in general, everything's a grade 5 reading level. It's ADA compliant. So if you'd prefer to read, listen along, it's accessible for the many different types of learners, because each adult learner has a different preference in how they want to engage with information. So we take that into account. And overall, it's just got something for everyone. So we know that each caregiver has something they can benefit from on the platform. So we really have designed for each and every type of caregiver.
That's really great. And welcome back, by the way, Leda.
Thank you.
You guys know that, well, you know me, and I like to measure everything. Does it make a difference? Does it work? Are people responding positively? And I think you have some data to really show the efficacy of the Trualta app. So talk a little bit about that, and maybe a success story or a testimonial that really resonates with you.
Yeah, happy to share a success story. So a caregiver that we were working with recently, Robert. So he had been caring for his wife for 7+ years. And throughout that journey, he was feeling really isolated and hadn't engaged with anyone really throughout all of the different research he was doing in the community, different local support groups. And he never felt that he was truly supported in a one-on-one basis until one of our care coaches, Darcy, was able to reach out and introduce him to Trualta. So he hadn't actually logged on yet. He'd had an invitation, but hadn't engaged. But then when Darcy reached out and kind of gave him that personal introduction, it sparked him into logging on to Trualta 60 times in 90 days,
Wow.
Which is so, so powerful.
Wow. That's amazing.
And then from there, he even support groups. It was really just this deep journey.
So I think we're losing Leda again, but she was talking about him having access to support groups, using the platform continuously to get the support that he needs. So I think that's amazing. So what we're going to do now, before we get into the second set of, to actually see this live, you're probably tired of hearing from me, not so much from my guests. But this is a great time over the holidays. We've been pushing this extensively, and that's preparing for getting older. We don't do a very good job in doing that. And there's a tool we've been pushing for quite some time that's free for anybody over the age of 50. Great time during the holidays when people get together. It's called the TEPSAT, or the Elder Preparedness Self-Assessment Tool. Check it out. Hi, my name is Greg Olsen, and I'm the director of the New York State Office for Aging. When you need to replace your refrigerator, maybe a washer or dryer, or how about a vehicle, do you do a little bit of research first before you make that big purchase? The answer is, of course you do. What we don't do is plan very well for getting older, understanding what to think about, what to plan for, what services might be available, who pays for them, and it can be very complex, but it is truly necessary. I want to introduce you to the TEPSAT, which is a fantastic planning tool. A perfect time to do the TEPSAT is when you gather over the holidays. Please share it with your friends, family, and neighbors, and sit down and get yourself prepared for the things that you need to think about as you grow up and grow older. Please take a look at the link below and take the TEPSAT tool over the holidays. Welcome back again, Leda. Good to see you. All right, so let's take a look at this and see how easy it is to use and to access. So let's jump right in.
So what we see here, this is the login experience. And one thing that we really focus on is that it's easy to create an account and doesn't take too much time at all for the caregiver, so that the time to value is really reduced and they can engage and start getting helpful support as soon as possible. And then there's that English and Spanish.
So there's a sign-in sheet, right? And where you select your county. Okay, here we go.
And you're able to select what brought you to the platform from a condition standpoint.
And then once you do that, Leda, what does it do? That's where it creates the specialty type of beginning of things that might be of interest.
Exactly. So from there, it's going to personalize the entire platform. So it's a lot like Netflix, where if you start watching a certain piece of content, you're going to then see more.
We're having trouble with Leda. So there, I think she's back. So you put in a little bit of information about yourself. What happens to this information once it gets into the system? It's all protected, correct?
Completely private.
It's completely private, and I'll share a little bit just in case we're losing Leda's connection here. But as she was describing, it's going to bring content to the top for you that's most relevant for the needs that you have. And so, like she said, it's learning. These are the things that you're most interested in and what you're trying to understand or learn about in your caregiving journey. And so it will pull you into this platform. So this is showing you the homepage. So where I'd mentioned community features, or if you want to read care stories about others, where you can read about those there on your homepage, or you can go right into the toolkits, articles, or videos, those different learning modules that Leda was explaining earlier. And you can see the website there, but then now you go into My Learning Hub. So that is going to be customized for you. And so it's going to bring those topics to the top. You still have access to all of the entire range of content across the Trualta platform, but those ones that you selected when you first signed in will come to the top for you. So here we see these intellectual and developmental disability specific pieces of content that were selected at the login. And you can see there on the modules, you can look on the side of, how do I build a routine? There's dressing, showering. So these topics that you would want to consider that are very relevant to this condition. And each article shows on the right-hand side, or it could be a video, but it gives you the length of it. It might have a tool in there, particular, like this one has a medication checklist that you can actually download. You can print this. A lot of our caregivers actually want to print content that they see. And then you can listen to the video. So this person, you can have it narrate for you. And it can be in English or Spanish. So sometimes caregivers just want to listen in the background and listen to a video briefly. And you can add that in and say, okay, now I'm trying, this one is displaying a particular scenario. So on this caregiver scenario, you can go through a kind of a choose your own adventure scenario where you would decide what is the best example of how I should handle this particular situation. So we call it the try it out examples. And then you can know, okay, this was the right solution or not the right solution. Now focused on the community tab is what we're seeing here on the screen. This is how you would find local resources and these webinars or support groups, other topics that are available. And it shows you the events. You can register for those ahead of time. And it's all within the Trualta platform. So you don't have to go out to a different platform. It's all hosted within there. And then you see here on local resources, these are all of the other parts that are available through the New York State Office of Aging. So you see Archangels on there, and other pieces of content that are offered, other partners that are offered through the New York caregiving resources.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you going through that. And I think, the topics on the daily needs, behaviors, things of that nature, that's exactly what people want. And I want to reiterate that, the way that you guys have constructed this platform and the data that we've received on our multiple surveys is people don't have an hour and a half to sit for this long webinar. They can receive the information in short, written content, podcasts, video, etc. So to your point, that you can kind of multitask. And if you're caring for somebody, for example, and you're preparing dinner, you could have it on your iPad right on the kitchen counter.
Yeah, exactly, Greg. And I think that's where, we call it micro learning because that's how adults learn. That's how they want to have it in those bite-sized increments. We don't all have time necessarily for a 45-minute webinar or even an hour-long support group all the time. But we do have time, like you said, when we're washing dishes or folding laundry or even sitting perhaps in the waiting room for an appointment. And you can listen in on your phone. And that's the other thing is it's also available. You don't always have to be on your computer. So you can be on your phone and listening to it, remotely from another location.
That's amazing. So you guys are very innovative and proactive, which is what I love about working with you guys. I feel that we are the same as well. So I'm going to leave you with two final questions before we take questions from the audience. And I'm sorry to put you on the spot. What kind of new things are you thinking about adding to the platform, first and foremost, in the coming months or the coming year? And secondly, is there anything that I didn't ask you or something that you would like to say or reiterate that we did talk about already?
Lots and lots on the horizon. So I think we're just going to be continuing to deepen the social supports that exist. So not just, a drop-in support group, but really getting
I think we're losing Leda again. I'll jump in. Yeah. So, deepening in that content piece. So thinking through, these are specific condition areas that that people are interested in. You talked about this, Greg, that, caregiving is not only for older adults and it's not only for aging adults, or even, often we think of dementia. It is across the entire lifespan. And so we're making sure to always enrich our content and add a lot of different condition areas that are very relevant to caregiving situations. And then on that community piece and that connection piece, offering more ways for caregivers to connect to each other, thinking through both webinars on the chat forum pieces, as well as those caregiver support groups. So broadening the range of topics that we're offering for those support groups. So, I wanted to let people know certainly how to sign up for Trualta. So it's New York, no space, newyork-caregivers.com, and caregivers with an S. So New York caregivers.com is how you would log into the Trualta portal. And you would be joining over 2,000, I think over 2,100 other New York caregivers that are engaged on the platform. So there's a lot of other caregivers within the area, in the New York area that are engaging, and then over 46,000 modules that have been viewed in the state of New York. So
that is amazing.
Pretty
It is.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask Alex, just leave that banner up if you would. For those of you that are out there that could use this service, go ahead and do that right away. For those of you that know somebody that's doing the tasks, let's not focus on the word caregiver. Please send this to them. For those of you that might in the future need this, remember it. And you can go right to our website or to this HTTPS address. This is here for you. It's free of charge. Again, thanking Governor Hochul for providing us the resources in our budget to be able to partner with Trualta and make this available to everybody. I think it's fantastic. We're up to 2,100 caregivers, but we could do a lot better, and you guys can help us get the word out on this. So, Alex, I believe there's some questions from the audience today. If you want to pull those up for us, that'd be great. Thank you, Robin. We agree. Inclusiveness is so important. Thank you. So here's one. So this is about working caregivers, which, we often don't spend a lot of time thinking about, but we have done a lot of work understanding who's actually providing care to whom and how old. And there are many, many, many people who are juggling work and caregiving. So this question is, my days are filled with work and caregiving. Can I log on to the platform at any time I have available?
Yeah, that's an easy one. Yes. Yes, you can log on at any time. It is a web-based platform. As I mentioned, it's available on your computer, on your phone, on a tablet. So any area where any device where you would have a browser access, it's available 24/7. So yes, you can log on at any time that you have available.
All right. And I know the second question you've already provided, but we'll reiterate it again. Does the portal provide opportunities for in-person assistance or group support?
We don't do in-person assistance specifically through Trualta, as it's all a web-based platform, but we most certainly offer group support. So on that forum, you could get live or close to live responses on the chat forum, and then certainly on the group support. We have both the webinars as well as the support groups that we offer. And then the support groups are either general caregiving, or they might be specific to a caregiving topic that everyone has in common.
Right. So other words, it may not be getting together in a local community setting, but getting together like this where you can see other people who are really kind of in the same place that you guys are, or I would be, and having that peer-to-peer support. There's the opportunity for the chat boxes or to turn your camera off and just listen and participate that way. So while it's not directly in person where I'm sitting across the table from somebody, it certainly is in person and live, or can be. One of the things that we have worked really hard with you and others is to kind of triangulate those resources that are available. So we talked earlier about the Caregiver Intensity Index. You showed our New York Connects resource directory, which has over 100,000 local respite and caregiver programs throughout New York State. But what other resources do you have available for caregivers?
Yeah, so really everything that's on the Trualta platform, and anything that's available via so all of the content that's available on the Trualta platform would include these caregiver support groups. It would include the content that we mentioned with the videos or articles, checklists. Sometimes just having a checklist and being able to print that out is really helpful to have. And so any of the modules are actually available to be able to print out from the Trualta platform. But I'd also emphasize, there's not going to be only one tool that caregivers need. And so that's why we offer that local resources page within the Trualta platform. So you can at least know that it's one place for you to get the information. But any of the other resources that the New York's Office of the Aging actually provides to your caregivers, those are all listed on that specific website. Or you can go here to this aging.newyork.gov. But on the Trualta website too, those local resources that Greg and his team, the other partners that are there, are also available on that page.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, the bottom line is it's about engagement.
Yeah.
And then connecting, right? Engaging somebody, recognizing that, yes, I am, and then how I can connect better. We send out a lot of stuff to try to, highlight and get people connected, through our newsletter, social media, Facebook Lives, things like this. And we'll continue to do that. But is there additional advice that you have for anybody listening on how they can pass this along or recommend your site to a friend of theirs?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the easy thing is just to share the link. What we want to make sure of is that it's easy as possible for anyone in the state of New York to register. So that self-registration and that process, you put in your name and an email, and then I think the county is in there, the New York County that you're in. It's literally, it's like a 2-minute process, or probably less, maybe more like 1 minute process, and you're in the platform. So the best way to offer to share this to someone else is to share this particular portal, this newyork-caregivers.com, and then they can log in, and that's the easiest way, just to self-register.
Well, I mean, it's fantastic. So again, we're going to urge folks through whatever mechanism you have, email, text messages, your own social media pages. Help us get this out as far as possible. There's a lot of folks that, may be afraid to come forward, that think that this is something that they should just do as a family member. And a lot of us feel that way, but it doesn't mean you have to go at it alone. And that's what this is really all about. And again, as we gather over the holidays, we may see some things from a loved one because we haven't seen them in a while, or talk to somebody else who's taking care of that somebody that, we're around the holidays that could really use some support. So, Leda and Nastron, I thank you so much, first of all, for the partnership, the constant innovation and forward thinking. I mean, there's so many new features that you've added. We continue to, be really impressed with the things you continue to try to build as we expand this partnership. And for those folks out there, the worst thing you can do is check it out, right? It's a simple process to go through. None of your information is shared. It's all secure, but it's really an opportunity to try to get you connected to resources that are going to help you do your job better. But there's also indirect resources for caregivers, and that's the actual programs and services that are offered around the state that can take some of that pressure off, like transportation or a home delivered meal or personal care aid or our bill payer program and things of that nature. So kind of look at this through two lenses. How can we support individuals to do their jobs better and feel more confident in what they're doing, but also we can connect you to some other resources. So again, can't thank you guys enough for being with me today. Thank Leda as well. We'll get to her afterwards. As always, I want to thank my communications team, Roger, Alex, and Darren, for making these productions amazing. We'll be back in just a couple of days on December 4th to talk a little bit more about our partnership with Intuition Robotics and LEQ in combating social isolation, loneliness, and improving overall health and wellness. So we'll see you in a couple of days. And to my great friends at Trualta, the entire team, thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Greg. We're so proud to be a partner with you and your team, and really thank you for spreading this word and being able to get more caregivers access to the platform. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Live with Greg is a production of the New York State Office for the Aging Communications Bureau. Please make sure to join us next time.